It's a traditional recipe from my family's cookbook. We've been using this baby since I was a pollywog.
I think I found your problem, guys. Oh, things are done.
Oh, that makes sense.
It's all so clear now.
Okay, I love Pokemon as much as the next girl, but I have the same relationship to Gen 1 as a High Guardian Spice YouTuber has to High Guardian Spice. I hate it because it's bad in almost every way, but I'm secretly glad it exists because I love complaining about it. So with that out of the way, I wondered what Nuzlocke could help me complain about Gen 1 the most. And this is that. Okay, but first, the rules. Skip to this timestamp if you don't care in the slightest. If you clicked on this video, you probably know what a hardcore Nuzlocke is. But if you don't, the rules are on screen. Got it? Good. Now I made a few changes. 1, instead of the gym leader's ace, I cannot level up past the next gym leader's average party level. 2, I can only use Pokemon that were buffed in Pokemon Gold, Silver, or Crystal, which I defined as gaining a second type, gaining a 1-turn stab move with a total of 170 combined base power and accuracy, despite not having one in Generation 1, gaining a new evolution, or gaining a held item, specifically for that Pokemon that boosts a stat other than critical hit ratio. Also, since Amnesia is super broken in Gen 1, Pokemon who learn are banned. Okay, got it? Good. Then I'll grab a console to play on and a stuffed animal for emotional support through any deaths, and let's begin! First I choose my starter, Bulbasaur. Now this was kind of a mistake on my part, as while Venusaur does learn Solar Beam, which can become a 1-turn move with Sunny Day, which is introduced in Generation 2, it also learns Razor Leaf, which almost always crits due to Gen 1 nonsense, giving it an effective base power and accuracy total of 205. Unfortunately, I did not know this happened until writing this script. This is my mistake and I'm sorry. She who has never been wrong about Pokemon shall cast the first stone. Anyway, after beating up my rival, I catch 2 more Pokemon. A Weedle on Route 2 and a Pikachu in Viridian Forest, which I named Nuclear and Battery respectively. Pikachu gets the Light Ball and becomes even more adorable, and Beedrill learns Sludge Bomb in Gen 2. Speaking of Beedrill, Nuclear proceeds to evolve 2 times into Beedrill, and with that we can go beat up Brock's gym trainers and then destroy him with 2 Vine Whips from our favorite baby powerhouse, Sunshine. Time to become the most powerful elementary schooler in the world! As is the goal of Pokemon. I'm assuming the adults are too busy trying to pay rent or something? I don't know. Anyway, that's besides the point. After this hard-fought battle requiring great amounts of strategy, I am rewarded by receiving a new encounter, Zubat, who I named Love due to Golbat evolving with high friendship. Sunshine also evolves into Ivysaur as a reward for their hard work. And then, this happens. I have Sunshine set up Leech Seed and hit with a Vine Whip, but then I get crit, so I have to switch out. So Nuclear comes out and strikes with a Fury attack. Then I switch to Battery in an attempt to strike with a Thunder Shock. No! How dare you! You will pay for this! I doubt any of my Pokemon could survive a crit from Hyper Fang, but wow, that hurts. Battery, you will not be forgotten. I storm off angry at this injustice, grab an Ekans named Grenade, and storm off to beat up the Nugget Bread. Oh no, I forgot this rival fight was here. I lead with Love. I then miss a Supersonic and get crit by a Quick Attack. After a little bit of switching, I promote Sunshine, who misses a Leech Seed before hitting a second one. To clarify, Gust is a normal type move in Gen 1, which is why it's not super effective. At this point I switch to Nuclear, who also gets crits. So Grenade comes out and also gets crit. I go for a Wrap to abuse Leech Seed, but it misses. A second one hits, so that's good. After Wrap ends, a second one also hits after Pidgeotto misses a Sand attack. But eventually Grenade falls to a Gust. Sunshine comes in and tanks a Quick Attack, and then Pidgeotto falls. But that's only one of Blue's Pokemon. Abra, however, has no attacking moves, so I can use Leech Seed on it for free HP. After using Growl for what feels like forever, Abra falls her Leech Seed damage. Then Rattata comes comes out and hits a very hard Leer-boosted Hyper Fang before falling to 2 Vine Whips. At this point, Charmander comes out and hits a concerningly hard Ember, but I can't really switch into anything because my team is so weak from everything else. So Sunshine falls. Nuclear kills Charmander with a Fury attack, but at this point my team is so damaged from this murderous buffoon that I have to reset the challenge. I catch the same 3 Pokemon and go beat up Brock with 2 Vine Whips from Sunshine. Again! But this time I catch a Paris named Desert, who will be far more useful than Zubat due to not being weak to Psychic and having Spore. I then proceed to use the biggest brain strategy to get past the Rocket Grunt with Eradicate. Are you impressed? Anyway, time for a rematch with Blue. This time I lead Battery, who hits Pidgeotto with 2 Thunder Shots before having to switch out into Sunshine. Sunshine takes a few gusts before knocking out Pidgeotto with 2 tackles. Blue then sends out Abra, who can't deal damage, remember? So I use Leech Seed to steal all of its HP to restore the damage taken. The next Pokemon, Rattata, falls to 2 Vine Whips and then Charmander is sent out. I have Sunshine fire off a Leech Seed and then switch to Grenade, who, after getting hit by a few meaningless status moves, fires off a Wrap to kill Charmander with Leech Seed, and then another one when the first wears off. I then catch an Oddish who I name Chunk. I won't be able to evolve Chunk into Vileplume because it's only allowed because Gloom gets another evolution, but it's still nice to have. I also catch a Mankey named Christian, and with that we find ourselves against the second gym leader, Misty, who leads Staryu as I lead Chunk. A Sleep Powder on one of her random X defend turns disables Staryu and allows me to hit with super effective absorbs twice before needing to put it back to sleep. 2 more absorbs get me back to full health and finish off Staryu. Next is Starmie, but that also doesn't have any psychic moves, so to sleep it goes after my precious baby vegetable tanks a few tackles. But Starmie gets an early wake up and dodges a sleep powder, so our precious baby vegetable has to switch out into Sunshine. An equally precious baby vegetable, who finishes off Starmie in 2 Vine Whips. Attempt 2 is the run, guys, gals, and non-binary pals. But it's not over yet. In fact, the hardest fight so far is upon us, and it's the 3rd mandatory Blue fight. The real problem is he has a Kadabra, and my team is very weak to Psychic right now. I feel like a general commanding their battalion into war, knowing people are going to die today. But I guess I have no choice. I lead with Battery, who kills Pidgeotto with 2 Thunder Shocks and a Quick Attack after tanking 2 Quick Attacks of Blue's. Then Blue sends out Raticate, and I switch to Sunshine, who hits with a Vine Whip before being forced out by a Hyper Fang, and then a Tail Whip. And then, unfortunately, I have to do something I really don't want to do. I have to sacrifice Battery. I need to do this to make sure that Sunshine can kill Raticate without dying to a Hyper Fang. Maybe I could have played that better, but that was all I could think of in the moment. I then also have to sacrifice Grenade to get a free switch into Nuclear, who kills Kadabra with a Twin Needle after surviving on just 8 HP. But it's not over yet. Charmeleon comes out, so I switch to Christian, who gets hit with a Growl and a Scratch before 2-shotting Charmeleon with Dig. Wow, that was rough. And quite sad. How dare he do that to Battery? And it's out of the frying pan and into the fire from here with Blue fights, minus the silly one in Lavender Town. Anyway, after Chunk evolves, it's time for Lieutenant Surge. I hit Voltorb with a Vine Whip on an X-speed turn and then knock it out a few turns after tanking a few hits. I got hit by a Screech, so I have to switch into Chunk when Pikachu comes out. I put Pikachu to sleep and then switch to Christian to knock out Pikachu with a Dig. Raichu also falls to a Dig after stupidly firing off a Thunder Shock instead of a Thunderbolt. Gen 1 AI for the win! After a long walk with no encounters or anything else eventful, I find myself at the 4th gym leader, Erica. She leads Victory Bell and I lead Nuclear. After one-shotting Victory Bell with a Twin Needle, I switch to Desert to kill Tangler, which eventually happens after a few turns of boring back and forth. Tangler really can't do much damage to me, and honestly, Parasect is pretty weak damage-wise in return. Despite this, Desert 2-shots Vileplume thanks to Poison being weak to Bug in Generation 1. Well, that was about as easy as the Brock fight. After beating up Erica with my adorable pair of bug types, evolving Christian, and also beating up Giovanni and an irrelevant underleveled blue fight. That's what you get for killing Battery, you little brat. I am able to catch a Ghastly, who I named Mewtwo due to Mewtwo using Shadow Ball in the anime before it was even a real move. Now you may or may not know this, but immediately after evolving 2 times, Mewtwo, despite looking like a Halloween-themed Furby, is actually unfathomably strong. Heck, with Psychic, Mewtwo is so unbelievably strong that it manages to single-handedly destroy the fighting dojo and get me my next encounter. Light, short for Light Screen. This is because Hitmonlee's special defense in Generation 2 is so much higher than its special stat in Gen 1. Oh, and don't worry if you found that blue fight underwhelming. There are far scarier ones to come, but until that day, there's more good news. As the road to Koga brings Sunshine's final form of Venusaur, a Ditto named Dusty, who I never use, and a Venonat named Dynamite, who will have a day in the sun fighting beside Sunshine, but goes to the box for now. I mean, Dynamite learns Psychic by level up, and that in and of itself is very useful with Gen 1's move pools being so bad, and the fact that I used my Psychic TM on Mewtwo. I also fish up a Horsey named Scale, who is the only water type I can get and therefore great. I'm sure you're all bored of encounters by now and want to get on with the gym challenges, so here's Koga! I send out my underleveled Mewtwo and tear through his team with ruthless efficiency, while his dual-resisted poison types can't even land a blow in return. I put Muck to sleep with Hypnosis, but it's completely irrelevant as Koga couldn't do anything anyway, even if I just sat there for 20 turns. Absolute loser. Thanks for the badge. Get a stronger team next time. You're somehow even less of a threat than Brock, and 2/3 of children are given a hard counter to him for free by the local old science nerd. As a reward for my hard-fought battle in which I did not cheat by using one of the strongest Pokemon in the region, I catch a Magnemite named Iron. After evolving both Iron and Scale, they become sort of an elemental core to my team, hitting weaknesses my team doesn't normally hit and not being weak to Psychic, and instead being weak to things resisted by the rest of the team such as Grass and Electric. Magneton also has an absurd special stat. Granted, it's not as high as Gengar, but it's still strong and respectable at 120, while also being low-key physically chunky. I also catch a useless Zubat named Love Again and a pretty useful Machop named Mormon. They were the only Christian denomination I could think of at the time, OKGs. A Tangler named Drought also finds its way into my box. A Scyther from the Safari Zone runs away from me. Ugh, I hate the Safari Zone. And then this happens. No! How dare you! Nuclear, my baby! You will pay for this, Team Rocket. Well, guess Christian's back on the team. Hope nothing bad ever happens to him. With that said, it's time for another terrifying blue fight. He leads Pidgeot and I lead Iron, who strikes the dumb bird down with a critical hit Thunderbolt. Next, Blue sends out Execute, who falls to 3 Thunderbolts after dealing some light poison damage and setting up a pointless Reflect. Gyarados is next, and I want to put it to sleep so that I can get a free switch out of Iron, who has taken a bunch of damage and is in no condition to take on Alakazam. So I switch into Desert and use Spore while tanking Gyarados' Dragon Rages pretty easily. Unfortunately, Gyarados gets a turn 1 sleep, so after using Psychic with Mewtwo, I am forced to use a 60% accurate Hypnosis, which hits. After throwing a second Psychic at Gyarados, I have to switch it into the Pokemon who will take on Alakazam, that being Christian. Now I know what you're thinking, fighting is weak to Psychic, but it'll be fine. Alakazam's defense stat is pretty low. I can one-shot it and not get one-shot in return. It'll be fine. Christian knocks out Gyarados with a Karate Chop, and then this happens. Wow, seriously? Confusion. I lost a Pokemon to Confusion. Ugh, well this is bad. Okay, Scale, I believe in you. Even though you aren't as strong as Iron, you're still a powerhouse. Use Surf. Alakazam wastes a turn using Recover while at full HP, and as a result, Scale is able to take it down with 3 Surfs. That was close. When Charizard comes out, I switch to Mewtwo, who has a high enough special stat to not take much damage from Charizard's fire moves, and is completely immune to its normal moves. After missing a Hypnosis, I make the so risky it's stupid decision to fire off a second Hypnosis, even though I was absolutely dead to another Ember. This was a bad strategy, and I denounce it. Psychic barely did anything, so maybe I should have switched to Iron after using Psychic instead of using Hypnosis. However, I get a special drop, so I'm now safe to a non-crit and can outspeed and knock out Charizard from this HP anyway. That was a bit messy, but we're fine. Gen 1 giveth and Gen 1 taketh away, as people say. Well, Christian is not fine, but that's what I get for being an atheist, I guess. But once again, after a hard blue fight, it's out of the fire and into the boiling sea with the next gym leader, Sabrina. The only gym leader I truly fear in this challenge. She leads with Kadabra, and I lead with Scale, who knocks out the first terrifying member of the Abra line with 2 Safs. Next is Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime's only damaging move is Confusion, so I feel safe to knock it out with 2 Safs as well. But next is Venomoth, and Scale is at far too low HP to knock it out with 2 Safs. Not to mention, the next Pokemon is the most terrifying Alakazam yet. So because of that, Desert comes in on a weak critical hit Leech Life and puts this ugly bug to sleep with Spore after getting poisoned. That sure won't come back to bite me, right? Anyway, it's off to Iron, who with 2 Thunderbolts is able to take out Sabrina's fake Psychic type pretty easily. For once, it would be nice to one-hit something in this gym battle, but Alakazam is not going to be that something, as it hits Iron with a critical hit Confusion causing Psybeam. And then Iron hits themselves in Confusion. Wow, I am very much having Christian flashbacks right now. What do I do now? Iron was supposed to Toxic Alakazam so it would fall in 6 turns and I could do a little trolling with switching. Guess it's off to Desert? Nope, that was a bad idea. That Psywave did way too much damage. I guess I have to sack Desert here, but this might be a wipe thanks to absolutely horrible RNG on that crit Confusion. And then the little brat goes for Reflect. Gen 1 AI, baby! Desert gets a critical hit slash through Reflect, meaning that one more slash should finish Alakazam off, resulting in me not taking poison damage due to the battle ending and everyone surviving that nightmare of a fight. But it is not to be. Alakazam lives the non-crit slash and Desert falls. How many more innocent lives must Alakazams rob from me? I send out Mewtwo, who, due to being weak to Psychic, should force Alakazam to use a damage-dealing move, which they should be able to tank due to their very high special stat. Alakazam goes for a weak Psywave, which doesn't hit for weakness, and then falls to a resisted Psychic from Mewtwo. Wow, that was a battle, alright. GG, Sabrina. GG. With that nightmare over, I am free to travel through boring but confusing strength puzzles to Cinnabar Island and then the Pokemon Mansion, where I can grab myself a Weezing, who I named Bomb, because they are the bomb. Then there is the Blaine fight, but he happens to lack an Alakazam, so he isn't a threat. Skill issue, honestly. All his Pokemon fall to Safs from Scale, and we are moving on! And by that I mean it's time for the final gym leader, Giovanni. Scale tears through his team with Surf, but has to switch out due to overleveling from the EXP. However, it's not a problem as his Rhydon only knows normal moves, so Mewtwo can easily take it down without breaking a sweat. You know who does have an Alakazam though? Blue! That's right! After I grab a Dratini named Twitter, it's time for another Blue fight. The final one before the champion fight, in fact. As usual, he leads Pidgeot and I lead Iron, who knocks it out with a Thunderbolt. Then he sends out Rhydon, who can't hit Mewtwo. After that falls, I have to fight Execute. Execute hits Dynamite with a Sunspore on the switch-in, which according to Bulbapedia, it shouldn't land, so maybe they should update their wiki. How am I supposed to become the greatest trainer ever created if I don't have the right information? Wildly unhelpful. My betrayal at the hands of the Pokemon community is inconsequential though, as Execute falls to 2 Leech Lives. Next, Gyarados comes out. I decide to put it to sleep by switching to Mewtwo and using Hypnosis. However, I miss twice, and after trying to heal up with Rest, I realize I'm taking too much damage and switch to Dynamite, who hits a Sleep Powder almost instantly. That's great, but what am I going to do with this sleeping fish? Sit up strats, of course. I switch to Light, who can sit up Substitute on one turn, and then sit up 3 Meditates on the other 3, and then one-shot Gyarados with Double Edge from behind the Substitute. The same fate falls upon his pesky Alakazam, and Charizard falls to 2 strengths. Well, only 1 Alakazam to go. Wish me luck! Okay, so I'm going to be using the level cap of Lorelei's team average to start with. However, I will be increasing the level cap each time I defeat an Elite Four member. I will be using the 12 rare candies that can be obtained in Pokemon Red to level up my Pokemon during this process. It is worth noting that I don't think I picked up the rare candy on the SSN, so you could argue that I should only use 11, but I will let my mistake slide since I only made up this rule while planning for the Elite Four. With that out of the way, let's go! The first Elite Four member is Lorelei, who leads with Dugong as I lead Iron. Iron's Thunderbolt one-shots Dugong before it can get an attack off. Next is Cloyster, who suffers the same fate. Slowbro also falls to a single Thunderbolt from Iron. Iron is on a roll right now. Next is Jinx, who isn't weak to Electric. If you're wondering about the order that the Pokemon were sent out, in Gen 1, Pokemon are sent out in listed team order, not based on type effectiveness like in the later gens. Since Jinx probably won't die to a single Thunderbolt, I switch out into Mewtwo, who tanks an Ice Punch before putting Jinx to sleep with a Hypnosis. I then switch back to Iron, who knocks out Jinx with 2 Thunderbolts. Last is Erase Lapras, who falls to a single Thunderbolt. With Kanto's second Water-type specialist defeated, we can move on to the Elite Four members with original types. Next is Bruno, who leads with an Onix, who falls to Sunshine's Razor Leaf. He then sends out both Hitmontwins, who also both fall to a single Razor Leaf. His 4th Pokemon is the second Onix of all things. Take a guess what happens here. Again, sorry, I didn't realize Razor Leaf always crits because Gen 1, that's my fault. Then, Machamp comes out and falls to 2 Razor Leafs after Bruno wastes a turn using a Guard spec. Seriously, dude, get a Pokemon with a special stat above like 60, it's not hard. With that, we're on to Agatha, and wow, can we talk about her dialogue?
I am Agatha of the Elite Four. Oak's taken a lot of interest in you, child. That old Duff was once tough and handsome. That was decades ago. Now he just wants to fiddle with his Pokédex. He's wrong. Pokemon are for fighting. Amity, I'll show you how a real trainer fights.
Queen energy. I love her so much. She is the best Kanto Elite Four member, and it's not even close. But unfortunately, her lead Gengar is very weak to Mewtwo's Psychic. It survives though and hits a Hypnosis. Because of this, I switch to Scale, who thankfully dodges a Hypnosis. As a result, Gengar falls to a Surf on the next turn. Take that, rip-off Mewtwo. Next is Golbat, who tanks the Surf before firing off a Supersonic of all things, which hits because of course it does. I then switch to Mewtwo as Golbat goes for Haze because why not, right? Mewtwo puts Golbat to sleep and then KOs it with Dream Eater to save Psychic PP. Then there is Haunter, who I decide to just one-shot with Psychic, but it survives and heals with the Super Potion of all things. Yes, items don't have priority when used by opponents in Generation 1, that's a thing, because why not, I guess? Haunter then falls to a second Psychic, and then Arbok is next on the chopping block. I decide to take this thing down with a Hypnosis and Dream Eater, which ends up taking forever, but ends up in my favor as Mewtwo gets paralyzed with Glare. This means it cannot be put to sleep by the next Gengar's Hypnosis, and therefore not hit for super effective damage with Dream Eater. At least that would be the case if the next Gengar actually knew Hypnosis, because bad Gen 1 moveset, strike again! Gengar uses Confuse Ray, so even though I don't hit myself, I have to switch out after Hypnosis misses. You know, for efficiency. I let Scale get in a hit after tanking a Nightshade and not being affected by a Dream Eater. Then, because it's everyone's story, I send in Twitter, who has become a giant Dragonite, to fire off a Surf for noticeably less damage after tanking a Toxic. Twitter gets confused and punches himself though, so I have to switch out again if I don't want to die to Toxic. Mewtwo comes in and punches itself in the face a little too before finishing off Gengar with the Psychic. I probably could have stayed in after that first confusion and saved myself the time, but that was fun Hunter. Last for the Elite Four is the Terrifying Lance, or the would-be terrifying if you knew what non-normal type moves are, Lance. But first there is Gyarados, whose Sunshine misses a Sleep Powder against and tanks a Dragon Rage from for the effort. A second Sleep Powder hits, however, so a Mega Drain can try to get back some of the lost HP. Gyarados wakes up on my Mega Drain turn, so another Sleep Powder is in order. Gyarados manages to sleep through another 2 Mega Drains, allowing Sunshine to get back to full HP, giving me a free switch to Mewtwo, which Gyarados also snoozes through. Apparently Gyarados is a massive lazy bones because they sleep through not 1, but 2 Dream Eaters to finish them off. Next up is Dragonair. Due to only knowing normal type moves and Dragon Rage, Dragonair can't do much to Mewtwo, who kills Dragonair with a Hypnosis and 2 Dream Eaters. The second Dragonair keeps spamming Agility and dodging Hypnoses. The reason Gen 1 AI does this is that it reads any Psychic moves as super effective against Gengar, even non-damaging moves, and therefore will always use Psychic moves against any Poison or Fighting type, and therefore will always use Agility against any Poison or Fighting type. I could have set up with Light here if I wanted to, but who can be bothered? After waiting forever to put Dragonair to sleepies, I am able to knock out Dragonair with 2 Dream Eaters. Next is Aerodactyl, who can't hit Mewtwo with the damaging moves, so its fate is the same as the 2 Dragonair. Dragonite knows the Psychic type moves Barrier and Agility, and also 2 damage dealing normal moves, so it also can't damage Mewtwo. So to sleep they go, but after they survive 2 Dream Eaters, I eventually finish Dragonite off with 4 Psychics. It's fine, I have elixirs. Wow dude, your yellow team is so much stronger. If that Dragonite had Thunder, Blizzard, and Fire Blast, I would be terrified. But I wanted to play the most outdated Pokemon game, so here we are. But now it's time for the final challenge in my quest to become the most powerful elementary schooler in the world, and that is the champion, Blue. Let him speak his arrogant words about how strong his Pokemon are and how it's my job to keep him sharp. He shall fall to my Pokemon like all before him. Do your worst, Blue. This is for Battery and everyone else. He leads his trusty Pidgeot, who strikes my trusty Iron with a wing attack. But Iron sharpens Iron as brother sharpens brother as Iron strikes them down with a Thunderbolt. Next is Alakazam, and I want to have Iron hit it with a Toxic to avoid it trolling me with Recover. But it misses, unfortunately, because I think I have to let Iron go down here to get a free switch to Twitter, who can take out Alakazam pretty easily. But then Alakazam goes for Recover as I go for Thunderbolt. That was really stupid on my part because it means I could have gotten the Toxic off and sealed Alakazam's fate. Unless he used a full restore, which Blue is unlikely to in Gen 1. But Iron still needs to go down for a free switch next turn, which they ultimately do. Farewell, Iron. You were the sharpest of them all. With that, Twitter can come out and crit Alakazam with a Body Slam for the one-shot. I wonder if that crit mattered, because if it didn't, I could have hard switched into Twitter, saving Iron's life. I don't know, because I'm not a perfect Nuzlocker, and I'm sorry about that to the Pokemon who have died for my mistakes. But enough of that, it's Rhydon time. Rhydon can't hit Mewtwo, so it's time for Hypnosis Dream Eater, baby. After that, it's Executor, who can only hit Mewtwo with Hypnosis. Mewtwo actually misses their own Hypnosis, then gets hit by Iggy's, so it's a while before I get to try it again, but since Executor can't actually hit Gengar, we can skip till Mewtwo wakes up and puts Executor to sleep. And that brings us to the Pokemon that will finish this battle for us, Light. Light sets up a substitute and 4 meditates as Executor can't do anything but snore. Heck, it can't even do that because the move Snore doesn't exist in Generation 1. Executor wakes up and survives a Strength, which is what the substitute is for, but Blue decides not to attack and instead uses a full restore, because why not throw the game? It's what Gen 1 AI would do. From here I realized that Double Edge will one-shot Executor, leaving 2 Pokemon to go. Next to get hit with a Double Edge is Gyarados, who survives even a crit but misses a Hydro Pump. While I definitely had ways to deal with it even if it didn't miss, that miss is a nice touch. A Strength takes Gyarados out on the next turn. Last is Charizard, but the iconic beast is no match for Kira and falls to a Double Edge, which also takes Light out and completes the Death Note reference and the Nuzlocke. Thank you all so much for watching. Please feel free to like and or subscribe if you enjoyed this somewhat chaotic round of Pokemon Red, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I have been Lightheart II, and remember, when life gives you Alakazams, bring a strong physical attacker, and also make Alakazam